Okay, that's recording. Okay, Nanny.
I'll do a think tank now. Anything else?
Well, it is. What's the date today? I can't even remember.
Oh.
I don't know.
It's the 20. Oh, I've got myself. Myself.
Sunday
It's the 26th. The 26th.
of November, 2023.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
It's the 26th of November,
Yeah.
2023,
That's right.
and we're here at Regis Burnside to have a bit of a chat with
Yeah.
my nanny about her life.
Yeah.
So, can you just? I'm just going to ask you some questions now.
Oh, that's the way to go. I can't think of anything voluntarily. No.
How old are you now?
I'm 95 and a half.
Okay.
Yes. No. That's right.
And when were you born?
22nd of July 1928.
Okay, great. I want to start from. I want to just go through some things about your family.
Yep. Yep.
What were the names of your grandparents?
Horace and Bertha Stalley, Stalley.
And was that on your mum's side or your dad's side?
That was on my mother's side. Now on my father's side, they'd come out from England and they all died very early when my father was quite young. He had 3 brothers and they all had to be spread out with aunts and things around the country. So I never knew who they were. No.
On your father's side?
On father's side, yeah.
Did that include your father's mum and dad?
Yes, both his parents died very early. Mm.
Yeah. Do you know what their names were?
Jenkins it would have been, yes.
Jenkins was the last name. Sorry, what did you say that your mum's grandparents' names were?
Stalley, Stalley.
And what were their first names?
Bertha and Horace.
Bertha and Horace.
Good old names.
And did you know them when you were growing up?
Yes, I did. We lived in Port Lincoln and I used to come over and stay with them sometimes in the school holidays, yes. Mm.
And did you grow
My grandmother died earlier. My grandfather lived at Norwood and he had a housekeeper there and we stayed there.
This is when you were younger, was it?
Yes, when younger.
Mm. Do you know where Bertha and Horace were born?
I think they were in Adelaide. I'm a bit vague on that one now. Yes,
Not sure.
I thought about that one. No.
They were, as far as you're aware, were they born in Australia?
Yes, I think they were. Yes. Mm.
And your dad's parents, the Jenkins, do you know were they born in Australia?
Jenkins. I think I'm a bit vague about the background there. But my father was born in Australia, of course, but his parents, they died early, I think. I think they might have been born in Australia.
Okay. Now, if I go to your parents, what were your parents' names?
William Roy Jenkins.
Yeah. And your mum?
And Molly Doreen.
Molly Doreen. And do you know where they were born?
Well, I think my father was born in. Something came up about Port Adelaide with my father. I used to remember in the early days. Port Adelaide. My mother was born in Norwood in Adelaide here.
They were both definitely born in Australia.
I think they were both born in Adelaide. Yes.
In Adelaide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how they met?
Now that's an interesting. Yes. Come here. They lived in Beulah Road, Norwood. My grandfather, my mother used to live there, and my father came back from the war, a returned soldier. And I think they met through some people that lived in the house behind them in Norwood. People called the Anthonys. They had a house behind them. I think that's how they met through them, but I can't tell you any more details than that, no.
And you mentioned that your father was in the war. Which war was that?
Oh, the First World War, yes. 3945. Oh, wait a minute, is that right? No, 1419, sorry.
No.
That was Bruce, yes.
Were you, you weren't born when your father went to the war, is that right?
No, that was after the war, yeah.
That you were born?
1928, so that was after 13.
And do you know what your father did in the war?
He was in the army, and he was a lieutenant in the army. And I don't know if he got a mention in dispatches or something, but
Did he win a medal?
he didn't. There's something vague there in the background, but it's not very obvious.
Was there a Croix de Guerre?
Oh, won the Croix de Guerre. That's right, he won the Croix de Guerre. Yeah. He won the Croix de Guerre in France, yes.
Yeah.
In the army in France. I
Yeah.
forgot about that, yeah.
You don't know what it was for, do you?
It was someone looked it up at one time. It was he in general he was with his commanding officer, the commanding officer put it in because my grandfather was so supportive to the commanding officer during the trench warfare. He did a lot of service in the trenches and out of the trenches, and he was awarded from the commanding officer here. Yeah.
Did you ever speak to your father about the war?
Yeah, but he never liked talking about the war much. He had very bad nightmares at night and all that sort of thing, yes. He didn't like talking about it much at all. We didn't bring it up, no. He had a bit of a breakdown after the war, and he went and stayed up in the country with some elderly aunts for a few months to recover from it, yeah.
How do you remember how it was that you heard that he had a breakdown?
Oh, I heard earlier when I was old enough to understand these things, my teens, I suppose, yes.
Did you ever see what appeared to be any effects from the war?
No, never did. No, he was a very gentlemanly, well-mannered, pleasant, lovely man. Yes, never saw any effects. But when I was a child living at the bank and on the Norwood Parade as a child, I can remember him screaming at night in the early hours of the morning.
And you said that he worked at a bank, did he?
He was a bank manager, yes, he was a bank manager in, when I was born there in the Norwood Parade, the savings bank. It's now a real estate office, I think. And then we went to Port Lincoln, and then we had 7 years there in Port Lincoln, and then we went to Mount Gambier. Getting mixed up with Bruce, I'm sorry, I'm thinking, yes, we had the similar sort of pattern with Bruce. We went to Port Lincoln, about 7 years, and then we came back to Adelaide, that's right, to Glenelg, yeah.
So this was when you were a child, was it?
Yes, and then Glenelg, I got married from Glenelg. He was in the bank at Glenelg, City Road.
Okay. Perhaps we'll come back to that in a minute. Did you have any siblings, any brothers or sisters?
Yes, I had one brother, John, 5 years older than me. He's now died. He died, yes.
How long ago did he die?
Oh, I'd have to look it all up. If he was 5 years old when he died, about 80. I hope I've got this correct.
That's okay. We can find that out.
Yes.
Do you remember where John? Do you know where John was born? Was John born in Adelaide?
Yes, John was born in Adelaide. Yes, I'm pretty sure of that.
And then you think you were born about 5 years later?
Yes.
And where were you born?
I was born in Adelaide too. Yes, I remember. I was trying to think of the hospital one out in North Adelaide. Yeah.
And then you touched on it before that you were. I just want to ask you some questions about your childhood. And where was it that you think you were born in Adelaide initially?
Oh yes, and then we lived in the savings bank on the Norwood Parade. And I went to a kindergarten across the road that I think is now sort of a Baptist church. They're all still there, these old buildings on the Norwood Parade. And then I the tram line went up the Norwood Parade, right
Oh, wow.
up to Kensington Gardens. So when I was when I left the kindergarten, I used to catch the tram and went up to, was called Girton College up in Holden Street, Kensington Gardens. Later in life it joined a boys' school, and that came Pembroke, a combined school called Pembroke.
Oh yeah.
Yes, it was always interesting because I used to walk to school up this street, and Don Bradman, you know Don Bradman, he lived there, and he used to say, "Good morning, girls," every morning. I always remember that more than the school days.
Was Don Bradman famous at that time?
At that time, well, see, that would have been, oh gosh, when I was, what age would I have been then? Then we went, I was only in primary school, 10, 11 years old, 1938, so goodness knows what she was then.
Would you catch the tram by yourself?
Oh yes, it was right in front of the door, and then we'd get off. There'd be all sorts of school children going in the tram to school up that way. Yeah.
Oh, how lovely.
Yeah.
Do you remember how was Nord Parade at that time?
Much the same. My grandfather had a big general store on there, and a big general store had everything: menswear, furniture, ladies' wear, everything you can think of. It took up quite a big space. Had the Norwood Town Hall, and then you came down a bit, and then there was Stallion Co, and then there was another one called McConaughey's, and then the street went down there. I think it was Queen Street, George Street. I can't remember which street it is, but they're all Woolworths in those places now. They took them over.
Yeah. So this was your grandfather, Horace Staley, who had the general store.
Yeah.
Do you remember what the general store was called?
Stallion Co.
It was called Stallion Co.
Yes.
And what did they sell in Stallion Co?
Oh, furniture, ladies' wear, every sort of thing, and men's wear. I mean, it was a general store. You get anything you wanted there, except food, not food. No.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know how long he had that business for?
Oh, he had it all his life, I think. Yes, until many years. Then his son took over, Jack Staley. He worked for him when he left school, and then he took over when my grandfather died.
So it was Jack Staley, your uncle?
Uncle, yes, he was my uncle. And then, of course, when they all passed on, they sold it. And I don't know if it was Coles or Woolworths or one of those now. The big store just took it over.
And sorry, so was that that was your mum's brother?
My mum's brother. Yeah.
Did she have any other siblings?
No, just Jack. Yeah.
And did your dad have any other siblings?
Yes, he had 2 or 3 other brothers, but because they were orphaned and spread out in life, we never had any dealings with them at all. No.
Oh, they were orphaned.
Yes,
were they?
My father's parents died very young, and the 3 boys were Arthur, Stanley, and Arthur and Stan, and William. They were spread out around the place. We never met them because various people had to bring them up as children. They were difficult in those days.
Oh, so your father's name was William.
Yes.
And so who brought William up?
A couple of old maiden aunts, I think, but I never really met them or knew them or anything. They all died off early in life. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right.
And he got married, of course, and that was,
So you never met them?
No, I never met them. No.
Did he ever say?
Yes, he was fond of them. He mentioned them, but I think being young, you never took much in at that stage. No.
Did he ever say much about his childhood, or like?
Not a great deal. Nothing that really stays in my memory that I can recall. He used to go and stay up at Clare. There was an aunt up there, and I think he enjoyed it up that way. I think there was someone up there he stayed with quite often, and he liked the country life, but it's all a bit vague now.
Yeah. So you said that you caught the tram to kindergarten, was it?
No, kindergarten was across the road.
Okay.
Yes, but then I went to Girton College, which later in life was Seymour College. right up in Kensington Gardens.
And was that for primary school or high school?
I went in grade 10, I think. No, I was 10 years old, sorry. 10, about 6, it must have been about 5, I think about grade 5, 6, 7. And then we moved to Port Lincoln, so I had to leave and go to I was 10, I went to grade 7 in Port Lincoln Primary School, and then I had a couple of years in high school, and then I came over and was a boarding pupil at St Peter's Girls College.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Just going to double check that the recording is still working. Yeah, brilliant. Okay. So you said that you moved to Port Lincoln.
Yes.
How old did you say you were?
Now I get Bruce, our period with Bruce, and my period when I was, I think it was 10 years. No, I went.
Do you remember where you went?
7 or 10 years. I've just got them confused. I really have to do a lot of thinking to work that one out.
That's okay. Do you remember were you in primary school when you?
Yes, moved? We went over there, and I had to leave Girton College, Seymour that became, and I went to primary school for a year, and then I went 2 years in high school, and then I went back to boarding school, the intermediate, and leaving honours years in the St Peter's Girls College. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why did you move over to Port Lincoln?
Oh, my father was in the bank, and he was transferred to the bank in Port Lincoln. They just opened a new one over there, and he had to get all the countryside, everyone all involved in the bank.
What was his position in the bank?
He was the manager.
And was he the manager of the bank in Adelaide as well?
Yes, he was the manager of the Norwood branch in Adelaide, and he was sent to Port Lincoln to open this new branch to get all the Cow, Cleve, all the other people involved around the coast. Yeah.
And did you moved over to Port Lincoln? With your family, with your.
Yes, because that's right. There was a bank right on the seafront, and the premises joined the bank right on the front in Port Lincoln. And I went to primary school. That's when I was about grade 7 in primary school, and then a couple of years in high school. So I went to school for about 3 years in Port Lincoln.
And I haven't asked too many questions about your mum. Molly, was it?
Molly, Doreen, yes.
How was Molly as a person?
She was a very well liked. She was a very bright, cheerful person. You would have liked Molly. She was everybody liked Molly. She had a very, very bright, cheerful disposition. She was a lovely mother, yes. And I can't sort of say any more than that, I don't suppose. Yes, you would have liked her.
And what about your brother? Sorry, I haven't written down your brother's name.
John.
How was John when he was a kid?
John was very like Michael, actually. Michael, very similar. They're both tall and dark and almost similar in appearance. I've got a photograph up there.
That's okay, we can find
Michael,
it.
no, doesn't know about photographs.
Yeah.
Yes, very, very like Michael. Yes, he was like an older brother to a younger sister with a 4 or 5 years difference in age. They always used to get sick of you hanging around. Yeah.
Do you remember playing with John though as a child?
Very little, but being that, what as if he was the same age. Those 4 or 5 years made a bit of difference. But it was very handy when he went to school. When I was a teenager, I'd meet all the nice schoolboys through him. Yes, very handy. Yeah.
Were there any particular ones of his friends or anything that you?
Yes, there was one I used to go out with. In fact, I was still a bit friendly with him when I met Bruce, but I was never interested enough to go get married with him. He was all right. He was very well off, but I won't say any names.
That's all right. You can say the name. No, you don't have to. Okay, and so you moved over to Port Lincoln, and then you came back to Adelaide for boarding school when you went to.
Yes, now, I'm trying to think, we came back to Port Lincoln, we went to, that's when we went to live in the Glenelg branch, that's right, down at Glenelg. And I left school, well, I must have been, timing's a bit dodgy there. I know I went to work from the Glenelg branch because I had to go all the way up in the tram to Victoria Square, and I worked at the School of Mines down the end of North Terrace, and I worked there on the corner of Frome Road and North Terrace. I worked in the office there, but it was a long walk and I got sick of it, so I got myself a job in their wheat board, what was it, in King William Street, up quite near the Victoria Square where the tram came up from Glenelg. So I was working in the wheat board.
Is this when you finished school? Was it?
Yes, and that's when I worked hard to save my money so I could go overseas. So I saved my money, and then I went for a trip to England.
What kind of work did you do when you were at the wheat board?
Oh, clerical work. Yes, it was just clerical. Mm.
What does clerical work mean?
Oh, well, the wheat board, shorthand typing. I didn't do much shorthand but typing sort of work, but in the wheat board it was a lot of wheat vouchers that were coming in from the country, and there was a lot of, we had a board and we had to sort of plug things in and do things with all that. It was all a bit vague now, but a bit of typing, but more working on this board. Mm.
Can I go back to before you started working when you were at school?
Mm.
You said you went to high school at St Peter's Girls, did you?
And then I boarded at boarding school at St Peter's Girls College at North. That's now the Children's Hospital out there. It was knocked down, I think. I don't know, it's still, they're taken over by the hospital.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yes, you had the cathedral, Commode Street goes past, here's the oval here.
Yeah.
Cathedral, you went there and it was just on the left hand side, but I think it's been taken over by all the hospitals around there now.
Yeah, okay. Did you like going to school?
Dreadful, but you had good companionship because you had company with girls all the time, yes. And 18 in the dormitory, yes.
Oh wow.
Yes.
So what, there were 18 girls
18,
all sleeping
9
in
down one side, 9 down the other.
Yeah. Did you have any particularly good friends at school?
Oh yes, they've all slowly died. I think I had one that died a few months ago, my last oldest friend that was at boarding school, yeah.
Who did you have?
Gone.
Did you have a best friend when you were at school?
Oh, I bet they were all best friends when you were at school. You didn't have any other friends. They were your life because that's where you lived all full time. Mm.
Any names of any?
Oh, Betty Piggin was the one that just died recently, but Cynthia Jenkins and Mary Rowe and I had 5 good friends: Betty Piggin, Cynthia Jenkins, Mary Rowe. Someone that your father knew from over Stanley, Josie Nankerville, the Nankervilles from that part of the world, and another lass that died, I can't remember her name now, I've forgotten that, but very good friends. Mm.
And when you were at boarding school, during the week you would go to school, is that right? And then on weekends, what would you do?
Not too much at all. They had a beach house, the school down at Brighton. They used to occasionally take us in the bus down to Brighton, but in the rest of the time we didn't do much at all. We just played basketball or did something around the place. And
what did you played basketball, did you?
No, we had basketball courts and those sort of things at the school here. Mm. And hockey, we played hockey. Mm. Had a bit of an oval there, not much room though. Mm. Well, we managed to fit, it was all to do with company, had good company. Mm.
What about the subjects that you studied? Were there any subjects that you particularly liked?
I did what they call a general course, that was not really my thing, Maths 1, Maths 2, arithmetic, English, geography and history. That was it.
And then you said so did you finish high school at St Peter's?
At St Peter's, yes, finished school there, went back to Port Lincoln, and it was the end of the war, or was it the last year of the war? It was It's hard to remember. But I had had a very close friend in Port Lincoln, a girl called Gooley Thomas, and we were close friends. In fact, we were both sent to boarding school. She just another school, so that we'd make more friends because we were too close. They thought we should make more friends. We were sent to different boarding schools. But when we came back to live, we remained friends all our lives. Yes, yes.
And so you said that you finished high school when the war. Were you at high school when the war was happening?
Well, I just have to think, because I was away at school for 3 years. And the war was on while I was at school. I think the war just more or less. How long was the war? 5 years, wasn't it?
About
Yes.
that. Yeah, about. Do you remember what year it was that you finished high school? Do you remember that?
Well, I was born in 28, 38, 48 I would have been, 39, 48 I would have been 20, so it would have been about 16 or 17, 16, 17,
Yeah.
4 years before.
Yeah. Then about 1945
Yeah,
was when the war ended.
War ended. I remember. Oh no, I remember when the war started. That's right. Yeah, no, it was the war ending. I can't remember that day.
Or what do you remember about when the war started?
Now where were we? We were down in. It was down in Mount Gambier. I can't remember. I was down at the back lawn and someone came out of the house and said, "Oh, the war started or the war's ended," but I'm trying to remember.
Did you live in Mount Gambier at all when you were a child?
Yeah, I lived there. Oh no, I'm thinking of Bruce. I'm getting mixed up with Bruce again here now. No, Port Lincoln and then back to Adelaide. No.
Okay.
No, I didn't. No.
Yeah. Do you remember much about were you just in Australia when the war was happening?
Was I what?
Were you in Adelaide when when World War II was on?
39, 28, 38. No, I was living in Port Lincoln there, 28, 38, 39. I was about 11 years old then. I didn't go over to boarding school till I was a bit old, so I must have been at primary school in Port Lincoln.
Yeah. Do you remember much about how it was living in Adelaide when the war was going on?
I remember living in Port Lincoln because I remember my father ran just about everything for the war, all the Red Cross and all the things, and he, they were those that weren't. He'd been to the First World War, and he wondered about joining up again, and my mother said, no, you'd had enough with the First World War. But so he did his bit in Port Lincoln by running everything pertaining to the war. He even trained women marching and all that sort of thing, and everything you could think of, to aid and abet the war. Yeah.
Did your brother go to World War II?
Yes, he was in the Air Force too. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Same as Papa.
Same as Papa, yeah.
Did you ever speak to your brother about his time during the war?
The trouble was they were a bit old, a bit young for the war. They had to wait, and of course they were mad keen to get into flying. All the young men like Papa and my brother, and my brother only just got in, and I remember him flying Wirraway planes, and his big excitement. He flew them up the coast up to New Guinea, but they missed the actual war side of things. Yeah.
Oh, John actually missed out.
He missed any fighting of any sort. Yes.
But he went to Papua New Guinea, did he?
Yes, he flew some planes up that way. He got into flying, which he was delighted to do, but he wasn't in war flying.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then you said that you. Well, actually, just while we're speaking about John,
I'm sorry about that. Unfortunately, John was in the Air Force, and they were going to be sent over to Canada to fly these bombers to fly over Europe, and he got very ill. I forgot about that, and he had to spend some time in hospital down in Summers in Victoria, and he missed all his crowd. All went over, and he was always heartbroken about that, as you would as a young man, because of this illness. So when he got out, he went back but he only had some flights up the coast, which was never what he wanted in the war. No, he was disappointed.
Did John ever get married?
Oh yes, he married an Adelaide girl.
And did he have any children?
Yes, Debbie and Mark.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
You remember?
I do know Debbie and Mark.
Yeah.
Cool. And so you said that after you finished school, you went. Did you say that you worked at your father's bank for a little bit?
After I left school, when I was in Port Lincoln and came back to Glenelg. No, I worked in the
wheat board.
That was the School of Mines down on North Terrace. I said that was on the corner of Frome Road and North Terrace. The School of Mines and Industries. I don't know what it is now. Big old building, and it was too far. So then I went and worked in the wheat board.
Yeah.
And saved money, and that's when I went overseas then.
Cool. And so you were saving money so you
I was
could
saving money like fury to get pay for my ticket overseas. Yes.
And why did you want to go overseas?
Because it was what you did those days. You'd had to go and see the world. Yes.
And did you subsequently go overseas? Did you go overseas?
Oh yes, I got my 5 weeks on a liner. I think it cost £68 for about 5 weeks on this liner. But when you're only earning £5 a week in those days, it was quite expensive. Then when I got to London, I got a job in Australia House, which was very convenient because I was living nearby.
How was the time on the liner when you were travelling over to London?
Oh well, it was when you're young and I had a little romance with one of the officers on board.
Oh la la.
A very light romance. The third officer, young man, of course, I fell in the time, yeah.
Do you remember do you know what year it was that you went on that trip? Was it after World War II?
Well, it had to be, of course, when I was 28, 48. Well, about 48, 28 to that, 48, about 20, I suppose. So I had my 21st birthday in London, so it was in 48.
It was about 48, yeah. What year did you say that you were born again? Was it, what year were you born in?
1928.
1928. Okay, and so you had the 5-week trip on the liner, and then where did you?
We had some relatives in London, down in Romsey, down in the south of London, just out of the ship berth in Southampton, and Romsey was nearby. And this great uncle or something came and met me, and I stayed there for a week, and then off to London I went. And how do we get this plan? There was a big influx of girls in those days wanting to travel, and they all went out to Kensington and London, and they had these apartments and rooms out there. You'd rent a room and with a bathroom down the passage for so much, and you had a job, and that's what I did for a while. And then I met this lass on the ship. We joined up, and what happened, she worked in London, I worked in Australia House, and we got this. Well, she went to a luncheon one day, and I'm just getting you something.
Oh, sure.
And she met these people at this luncheon, and one of them was this commander, and he had a flat in London that was only used occasionally. He said we could have it very low in rent, and called Clifford's Inn, which was a place where Clifford's Inn, there it is, Fetter Lane in London.
Oh wow!
And it was a flat in there somewhere. It doesn't look so much, but this is the. This is an old one. It was the one. Oh, that's right. Oh no, this is all the other stuff. This is the one you want to know. The one we went down the trip down the coast of Africa. He's the one that had a fascinating history. I had all of. Oh, it doesn't matter. It's all beside the point at the moment.
Can you just pass me that? So is this is this photo album? Is this like mainly
it's an old one, 49 to 61.
Yeah, okay.
49 to 61. It's when I arrived in London, and pictures in London, and
Oh wow.
yeah, there I'm in London with, yeah. And that was the entrance to Clifford's Inn. Yeah, it looks a bit tatty there. Yeah, and that was inside. And there's Australia House where I worked.
Yeah. So how did you get the job at Australia House?
Just went and applied. And they didn't mind. They used to look quite like having Australian girls working. There was only just an office job, nothing big, nothing very big. Although I worked in the library there. I remember that in the library.
And how was it working at Australia House?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. You had to be sworn in and sworn out every day. Take the oath and
every day.
Every day, yeah. Sworn in and sworn out.
What
an
would
embassy was an embassy. You
Oh
see.
really? So
Yeah.
what would they make you swear?
Oh, I know you had to put your hand on the Bible and I know say some words every day.
What, that you'd like uphold your duties?
That's
to,
right.
like,
That's right. Yes. So I can't remember the words now.
Oh wow. And you mentioned something about Africa when you went on that trip. Did you go to South Africa?
Oh yes,
or
well
something?
that's when she met Valerie, whom I met going to England. She had a job in London. We shared flats, and then she met this Commander Roger Hill at a luncheon party, and that's when he said he was taking this yacht down to Cape Town, and he was looking for people that he wouldn't have to pay would work on it, but wanted a free trip to Cape Town. Was getting near our time of coming back to Australia, so she talked him into taking us. And of course, what do we do? They had there's the crew and everything, and that's the boat.
Oh wow!
And we did the cooking, you see, and for 8 men on board. Was pretty awful, but it's all the details there.
What kind of boat was it?
It was it had a name. It was called there were all the cuttings in the papers when I came back. There was a fire on board, and one of the young men died in the fire, so it got a lot of publicity. I don't know. It had the name of the boat here, Duncanson or something. A rugged trip here, a rugged trip there.
Oh wow! There's lots of photos of you
Yes,
in the
there
paper.
was a lot of attention it got. You see, because there's the trip down there.
Oh, you're right.
Rugged trip down to Cape Town, and that's the commander. He had a fascinating history though.
Well, what was his history?
He got decorated, highly decorated. I'm gonna have all the details about him somewhere there.
It's a great photo there at the end.
No, I've got them somewhere, but we're not doing him at the moment, are we?
No.
No, he was during the war. He got decorated highly during the war as a destroyer commander. He was a nice man. I always admired him very much in life. He was a very nice man here.
And how long did you stay in the UK for before you went on that?
I think it was about 6 months. We would have stayed a bit longer had this trip not come out, and we took it at that stage, I suppose. But didn't intend to stay forever. Was always going to come back. Yes.
And did you like being in the UK at that time?
Oh yes, when you're young, you like being anywhere, don't you? As long as there's life happening. Yes.
How was it? Or what kinds of things did you do when you were living there?
In London.
Yeah.
Well, I used to, you look at things in London all the time. You're always tracking around London, and had special places you'd go, have drinks or lunch and that sort of thing. And then of course you'd want to go up the countryside, so you'd go up the country. The usual things if you're living in Adelaide, I suppose. Anyway, yeah. And
then so you took that the trip back to was that trip just to South Africa that you got the
yes, it was. This yacht was bought by a South African millionaire, and our commander friend was delivering it for him, and he wanted the crew that he didn't have to sort of. They just wanted a trip to South Africa and work on the boat, and they would, have the meals and everything. But when they didn't get paid for it or anything, it was a free trip.
I think I saw a photo in there of in Lisbon as well. Do you remember? Did you stop in Lisbon? Or
Yes, I think we did. There's a picture there in Lisbon. I think of just stopping there and we're sitting on the wall in Lisbon. I think I can remember that one.
Just wondering, were there any notable stops that you took along the way? Anything that really sticks out in your memory as being fun and exciting?
Well, I'm just thinking, I can't think of anything. It all seemed exciting at the time, but they're all just. We used to pull up in these little ports, and they would be surrounded by people looking at the yacht because they'd come off the big overseas. Well, there weren't too many liners, but the overseas ships. The crew would often come and study the yacht very closely.
Was it quite a nice yacht? Or?
Oh, yeah, it was quite an interesting. They'd been used during the war as a sort of a motor torpedo boat. That sort of boat, yes, or the small one that gets around amongst the big warships and that sort of thing.
Okay.
That had. I've got the details somewhere on the thing actually, but don't worry about that. It had enough. I mean, for the crew slept down one end of the yacht and up the other end. Valerie and I had a cabin each, and then the commander had his own little suite there. So and then the bridge above, and then you had the salon and the kitchen and everything, engine room underneath, and the crew were down the end in a big open area down there, about 6 of them.
Yeah. You've been doing a lot of talking. Do you want some water now?
No, I'm all right, but I put that
You're
there. Do you
okay?
want some water?
No, that's all right. I'll grab some.
There if you want to eat it.
I've got.
How's our time going?
I think we're doing okay. We're doing fine, but
it's not quite 12. I've got to go at 12.
You've got to go at 12. Yeah, sure. All right. We're still recording. How are you doing?
I'm fine.
You're okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and so then you got back to once you got to South Africa, you somehow got back to Australia.
Now what happened? We were waiting for a ship to come through that was going from Cape Town to Australia, and suddenly one came, the Arawa, and it seemed to be the right time to catch that one. So caught that, came back to it, and that was that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you got back to Australia.
Yeah.
And then at some point, did you met Papa?
Yes, I was working. I went to work, and that was when I went to work again. Where did I go when I came back? Oh, I know. I went to a party, and I met a relative of my sister-in-law, and he'd just opened a small agency in the city for some Melbourne goods that he was dealing with in Adelaide, and he wanted someone to do his typing and answer his phone. And so I said, oh, well, till I found a job that I really wanted, I'd take this in the meantime. So I took this in the city, and that's when I met Bruce. And so it wasn't long. I didn't last there very long. I think I gave it up, and I don't want to give it up till we go away. Got married, and
Well, was there something about you meeting Papa on a boat or something? Was there a party?
Yes. Bruce had been in the Navy, and now how did I get down there? Oh, I know, through a friend of mine, a friend called Kay Turner. She was friendly with a fellow that knew Bruce, and Bruce came to Adelaide. That's right, on the ship. He was on the ship and invited these friends down, and anyone they'd like to bring with them. So Don and Kay said, would you like to come down with us to a party down here? And I said, oh, I'm not doing anything tonight, so okay. So down I went, and that's when I met Bruce.
Yeah. And what did you think of Papa when you first met him?
Knew that was the one.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, just funny that I remember that we were all in this little cabin and we were all having drinks and everything, and just somehow in life you just know when someone is well, attracts you. That's why it was. I think it was mutual. So that was from then on was all on.
So what happened? So what?
One year he left it. What happened? I was in town one day, and he was thinking, he was in Adelaide, and this same friend told him something about some work. I ran into him anyway in North Terrace. I knew all this so well, and said, "Oh, come out to dinner tonight." So that we did. That's what he wanted. He was going to go over to. He just finished his degree in engineering, and he wanted to go over to England to work in the atomic power station. And a friend just told him, in the meantime, till he could go away, there were some jobs going in the electricity trust. They were looking for people, and he had the degree and everything. And that's when I met him. So he never went overseas. He stayed there.
He stuck around so he could hang around.
Yeah.
So he could hang around.
So we went out and got married, and he went up the ladder.
Yeah. Oh, great. What did you like about Papa when you first met him?
I think it was his voice. Funny enough, but he had this nice deep voice he had. It's funny that I can always remember that. Oh, I liked his face. He wasn't handsome. I came home and I said to my parents, we used to do this. I said, I'd like to ask a friend I've met to dinner one night. This is what we used to do. I said, he's not good looking. He's not good looking at all, but he's a nice fellow. He's got a nice voice. So, that was an introduction.
And what did your parents think of?
Oh, I think they liked him. I think that they liked him. My father did straight away. He felt he was an intelligent young man. So from that point of view, he liked him. He didn't think he was a scatterbrain or anything. And they were very happy with him. Yes. Yeah.
And you subsequently got married at some point.
Yes. Went on 6 months or so, I suppose. Yes, we got married.
Did Papa propose to you?
Oh yes, he did. We laughed about it. Yes.
Do you remember how it was that
yes, I think we had a joke about it. He got down his knee. Don't get up. Go away.
But you said yes.
That's right, yeah. It was all done, yeah.
Yeah. And then, so did you then move? You got married?
Yeah, we got married, and housing was terribly short, but a friend said they had a little apartment at North Adelaide that belonged on the back of the grandmother's house, so we got that, and we were both working for a little while, and then Bruce's father was widowed, of course, and he said, would we come and live in his house at Brighton, and we'd have it rent-free if we just looked after him and cooked him his meals. So we went down there. We were there for about a year, I suppose, and then Bruce got transferred to Port Lincoln to build all the power stations, so that's when we moved out.
Right, and then you moved over to Port Lincoln.
Port Lincoln, yeah.
And then over in Port Lincoln,
we had Julie at that stage, I think, yes, that's right. Julie was born down at Brighton, and we had Susie and Simon in Port Lincoln.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, Susie and Michael.
Susie and Simon. Susie and Michael, yes.
So yeah, I want to ask you a few questions about the kids. How was Julie as a child?
Oh, she was. You could just imagine. She was 2 years older than Susie and 18 months older than Michael. And from the moment that she could instruct and speak, she had them organised. She was always organised, and she used to try. I've told you this. She used to try and make them entertain us and do little dancing acts and things, and she'd train them all up, and then they'd come out into the lounge. We'd be sitting waiting, and then Susie and Michael would get the giggles and wouldn't perform, and Julie used to get so cross with them because she'd train them up for this, and she was only this big. But from that early age, she was in control. Oh yeah, still there. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
And how was Susie as a little child?
Naughty, always giggling and always naughty and having to be pulled in line. Yeah.
And how was Michael as a child?
Coming back to Julie, I always remember the headmaster at the primary school Julie was going. She was doing very well, and he always remembered he was coming to Bruce saying, "She's going to do very well. She's a very intelligent child." This is Julie. We always remember that because she was a very bright little girl. And anyway, no, Susie and Michael were just went through everything as they had to do. Did what they did. Yeah. And that they had their jobs and their sort of careers, but your mother, she had it all, but she stopped to have children, all that sort of thing. But she still got a few things up her sleeve, like a law degree and another degree and something else. Oh, she was doing medicine. That's right. She wasn't very well. Yeah.
Yeah. What about how was it? You were living in Port Lincoln with three children at the time.
Mm-hmm.
You were living in Port Lincoln, and you had 3 children,
yes.
and Papa was working at that time as well. How was it for you looking after?
We all minded our own children in those days. All you needed was someone when you want to go out at night, a babysitter to mind them if you wanted to go out and socialise a bit with other friends in the town. That was it. So there were always nice old ladies around that would come and sit, with a few bob at night. But the daytime, no, you did everything yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. What kinds of things did Julie, Susie, or Michael play sports or anything?
Oh, they did all the recognised things at schools, that when you had them, they didn't go out of their way to seek anything unusual. They just played what was expected of them, and that was that, I suppose, yes. Went madly into it anyway, no.
Was there a time that Julie drove the car and hurt herself?
Yeah. That was a dreadful period. She was only 10 years old, I think, when she got in the car and released the brake and the gears, and it ran down the drive and hit a fence, and she tried to get out and got her head stuck in the door and the fence, so ripped her head open.
Oh, is that what happened? She tried to get out.
She tried to get out to stop the car, and she got caught between this wire fence and the car door, where no one ever quite knew. She was able to walk in, and Bruce saw this, and he never forgot it in his life what she looked like. I was out.
Oh, okay.
Michael up at the surgery with ear abscesses at the time. I tell you what, looking after 3 young children, 3 under 4, was hard going.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Was busy, yeah, very busy. You've got 1 coming on, so that's not too bad. No.
Yeah. And what are you most proud of Julie?
Oh, I was always proud of Julie. It's hard to pick any specific thing. She always did everything, that she's an amazing little girl. It's very hard to give you a proper answer about that one, but I always think of Julie as something, and Bruce. It's not that you had favourites in the family. You don't have favourites exactly, but you just think certain things about different ones. Bruce was always very into Julie. He felt her brain was so, he was so responsive to everything. Yeah. All the reading and learning and everything. Yeah. Yeah, she's a very bright little girl. Probably more so than Sue and Simon, who've done everything that they felt they could do, but Julie just had that little bit of extra. Yeah.
All right, how are we doing for time?
Yeah, we're just about needing to wind down.
Yeah. No, that's all right.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else that you would like to?
Oh,
that you'd like to add at all?
Oh. Oh, I don't know. I think it's just lovely. I think I've had a very fortunate life. At least Bruce lived to 97, and the way he was, it was a blessing that he did die at that stage, because he would not have enjoyed going on as he was with a stroke. And I've managed to live quite comfortably and happily here, and I have three lovely children and 5 lovely grandchildren. So what more can I want? We're all on very happy, good terms. So they're very fortunate. Very fortunate. Yeah.
Oh, good to hear.
Yeah.
So I asked before what are you most proud of about Julie, but I'll ask as well. What do you love about Susie and Michael?
Well, it's
as
no
well?
different. You just love all you when you have your own. You find that you love them all equally. It's not. You can't pick a special thing. It's just them. It's them. I mean, Susie's a different type to Julie again, but you love her. And Michael's sort of serious about things, and I mean, I do miss him, but I still feel he's there. Yeah. No, they're all the same to you. They're all your children. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. All right. We won't wrap it up there. Thanks heaps, Nanny.
Oh, thank you, darling.
Oh no, thank you.
I'm glad you. I was lying in bed last night, and I was trying to think of things, and my memory wouldn't bring anything up at all. And I thought, oh God, I've got to. Thank God James is doing something like this now, because in another 6 months I'll probably forget it all completely. You've got lovely teeth.
Oh, thanks, Nanny.
I can't
Thank
always. It's a lovely smile you have. Yes.
Oh, thank
yes.
you. Well, I have braces, so
yeah.
we can thank.
What are you going to do with the rest of the day?
We can thank the orthodontist. I'm not actually too sure at this stage.